Welcome to the National Pulse. I'm Raheem Kassam, editor-in-chief of thenationalpulse.com. Welcome back to downtown in Washington, D.C. Yeah, that's right. All of the big hullabaloo about the threats that we were supposed to be afraid of here in Washington, D.C. amounted to a big bupkis. Absolutely nothing. Nada, zilch, zero, zip. But it did end up with National Guardsmen sleeping on the ground in garages all across Capitol Hill. An absolute disgrace, an absolute embarrassment, shocking, the scenes that are being broadcast around the world of how America treats its troops. Firstly, brought to Washington, D.C. on a purely partisan spectacle basis. Props, in other words, 30,000 human props. For what? And at what cost? Then, National Guardsmen had their social media surveilled by another arm of the state. We're going to go through and see if you're sympathetic towards President Trump. Some people were even saying they were looking for flags such as Turning Point USA. I mean, not to be offensive towards Turning Point USA, but talk about a milquetoast organization to be using as a flag for extremist right-wing activity on a National Guardsman's Facebook page. But that wasn't all. That wasn't the last humiliation that they wanted. The political establishment wanted to foist upon America's military. No, last night it went one step further. Congressmen kicked the National Guard out of the Capitol building. Bad enough, and you'll remember on this show I mentioned it, was it a week and a half ago? Feels like a year and a half ago. That they were made to sleep on the floor, on the cold marble floor of the Capitol building. Too nice, apparently, according to Democrat congressmen. Because National Guardsmen weren't wearing their masks 24/7, when they were eating and sleeping and walking around, standing outside, going to get donuts and coffee, because they weren't wearing their masks that whole time, they were kicked out into these fancy new digs you see on the screen now. Politico reported that they were kicked into local garages. That's where Senate staffers park their cars. That's where exhaust fumes linger. That's where they have to basically sit on top of one another because the space is too small. Who would have thought? For 30,000 National Guard. And you know what's going to happen after all of this, of course. You're going to have an outbreak, a super spreader event, and they're going to blame the National Guard. Oh, they didn't wear their mask as a super spreader event. No. If there is an outbreak as a result of all of this, because you force them to sit on top of one another in an enclosed space in a garage on Capitol Hill. You are disgusting. The politicians of this country are disgusting. The pictures that are being beamed around the world of how the United States treats its military is a humiliation. It is an embarrassment to everyone, and everybody should feel affronted by this. Every single one of you watching this and listening to my word should be on the phone with your congressional office immediately today to tell them how disgusting you think this is. I do not care which side of the aisle you're on. I don't care if you're a Martian. We do not allow people in power to treat people not in power like this, especially not the military, especially not volunteers, especially not people who risk their lives and who put their families in second place to their country. That's what people do when they join up. They put their country first, and their country treats them like this. I am stunned. And the fact that it's Politico kind of makes it all the worse. Because establishment left-wing news outlets typically bury this. You know it must have been a bad situation for Politico to be reporting this. Look at the pictures. It is extreme. It is extraordinary. The level to which the Biden regime, day one, has stooped. Day one. He could go. He's the commander-in-chief now. He could see these pictures and immediately have said, absolutely not. That's not happening. We're not having it. Sort that situation out. Supposedly the most popular man in the country, right? Surely he would have had the political capital to say to Nancy Pelosi and his Democrat congressman friends who kicked the National Guard out of the Capitol after they were done with them. Thank you very much. You did your job. You were props. You secured our phony baloney empty National Mall inauguration. Get out. Sleep in the garage. Like a dog. Sleep in the garage. I'm sorry to the National Guardsmen who have been used as political props, as pawns over the last couple of weeks. I'm genuinely sorry. You didn't sign up for this. You didn't sign up to be part of my rant today. And I'm sorry that you found yourself a part of that as well. That is not where you should be. And that is why, a bit too late if you ask me, but Republicans across the country are now recalling or calling for the National Guards to be recalled to their home states. We're going to be joined by a Republican congressman in the next segment. Let's see what he has to say about just one of the largest stains on this country in so long on day one of a Biden regime. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, welcome back. I'm sorry I had to get that off my chest. It's just been bubbling up inside me since we reported the news on the nationalpulse.com last night, freshly after Politico popped that story with the just horrendous images of National Guardsmen being used as political pawns and then discarded. I also think it's time we learn to be more grateful to the things that are correct and are right and the people that do sacrifice. And I think one of those people is President Trump himself. I think in amongst everything that's been going on, we kind of forget how much the president gave up of his life to run for office and how much he endured to make America great again. And surely enough, I think I heard President Biden say America is a great country in his speech. So it turns out that President Trump did actually make America great again, by Joe Biden's own words. There's a meme floating around like that right now. I decided to set up a website last night. It's called ThanksTrump.org, and you can go there, ThanksTrump.org, and if you scroll down the page, you'll see that there is a form on the site. You can fill in your name, you can write the president a note, and I will personally endeavor to make sure that President Trump and his team down in Mar-a-Lago receives your messages of support. If you're watching this thinking I'm going to leave a nasty note, well, Raheem's going to take them out, so don't waste your time, don't waste mine. It's for people who genuinely want to express their thanks. Given that big tech has taken the president off and you can't now tweet at him, I figured what better a way than you can head on over to ThanksTrump.org. I want to bring into the conversation now Congressman for Florida's 17th, one of the few parts of Florida that I've not been to. Congressman Greg Steube joins us down the line now. Greg, thank you so much for joining us here, Congressman.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I want to start with the National Guardsmen because I think most people suspected that there was a lot of posturing going on from politicians on Capitol Hill about the level of security, maybe it's fair to say that people felt nervous after January the 6th and wanted some level of extra security, whether that was gates or more police or whatever. But 30,000 National Guardsmen seemed like a bit much. And the news that we're getting overnight from Politico's wild images that they're bringing us from the Senate office garages kind of serves to underscore that point to people that this was kind of about more of a photo op for a lot of your colleagues. What are your thoughts?
So I was in Washington yesterday, and I served. I've actually been in the Green Zone in Baghdad, in Iraq, and there were more troops in this concentrated area than I saw when I was in the Green Zone in Baghdad, because it's a much bigger area than that we have around the Capitol complex. Not only is there a wall all the way around the Capitol complex, which Joe Biden's going to stop construction on the wall of the southern part of our country to keep terrorists and others coming in from our country. Walls don't work there, but apparently a wall with razor wire around the top of it, around the Capitol, works to keep people out of the Capitol complex. We had to stop for like 5 or 10 minutes to let all these troops go by that had riot gear. Almost every 10 or 15 feet, there was a National Guardsman standing there. There was one entry and exit point for members of Congress to get in and out of the Capitol complex structure. It's nothing like I've ever seen in my time in politics. I've served in the military. It was more cordoned off, and there was more security between Capitol Police, all the other different law enforcement agencies and National Guardsmen that we had in our Capitol. And oh, by the way, the inauguration was 2 days ago. So why are all of these service members still up there sleeping in garages, not being treated with respect? One report I saw that they had 5,000 guys in a garage and there was one bathroom for these guys to use. Why in the world are they being disrespected like this when there's no need to have that level of security and that amount of people there? So I'm very thankful to Governor DeSantis today calling our Florida Guardsmen back, and he doesn't want them to be servants to Pelosi. And I agree with that move 100%.
Congressman, I think Governor DeSantis has done the right thing. I know that there are others looking at the same thing around the country, but you just look at it from the perspective of what this portends for the future. If this is day one, right? If yesterday was full day one, you had that all taking place, which is just disturbing, quite frankly, that we've got to that point where so many of, and I hate to call them your colleagues because I don't want to lump you in with them, but so many of your colleagues up there on Capitol Hill have this level of disdain for the National Guard, and it kind of just raises questions. Who else do they have that level of disdain for? If not the people who are on the front line, if the people on the front lines get that treatment, who else do they have that level of disdain for, if not worse? But also on day one, you had this executive order out of the Biden White House, what I now call the Biden regime. I'm not going to call it an administration, the Biden regime, about gender equality and girls' sports. Effectively, day one of the Biden administration regime, you have National Guardsmen kicked into the garages and men kicked into your daughter's locker rooms.
I would think that the mass majority of Americans would not think that it was a good idea to allow biological men to not only compete with biological women in women's sports, not in intercollegiate activities, but in women's collegiate sports. We are now going to allow biological men to compete there, and not just compete. That's one thing. That's one thing that I think most of us agree upon. But take that another step. Now they're going to be allowed in the locker rooms. Now they're going to be allowed in the women's bathrooms. Now they're going to be allowed in all of the intimate areas where female athletes are going to be changing and showering and doing all these things as biological men, because on this day or tomorrow or whatever day they want to affiliate themselves as a woman and compete in women's sports. It's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever thought. And the mere fact that we are having to do legislation to fight against this tells you where we are in our country right now and how far left we have lurched as a country, that this is an issue that we are actually having to do legislation on. Well, I even Democratic women who have daughters who compete in sports would not think this is a great idea.
Well, Congressman, we have President Biden speaking right now, which I know we're going to flip to in just a second, but I want to make sure that everybody can follow your work in this regard, because you are one of the leaders out there trying to stop this from happening. I know the American Principles Project is working hard at this. They have a domain, savewomenssports.us. Where can people keep up with you and catch up with you on all of these issues?
Yeah, stubby.house.gov is our official website. You can follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and keep up. Send us your email on that website, and you can keep up with all of our email information.
All right, we're really grateful, and we're really grateful for your time, Congressman. We hope you'll come back when we don't have President Biden interrupting us today on the show. Thank you so much for your time. Congressman Steube, they're a real warrior, real fighter, somebody that we really respect and trust, and I want you all to support what Congressman Steube and his team are doing. All right, I think we're throwing to President Biden now from the White House. Let's hear what he has to say live.
Critical food and nutrition assistance area. This is going to help tens of millions of families, especially those who can't provide meals for their kids, who are learning remotely at home, are not receiving the regular meal plans that they have at school for breakfast or lunch. We also need to protect the health and safety of the American worker. Right now, approximately 40% of households in America have at least one member with a pre-existing condition. Just imagine. You're out of work through no fault of your own. You file for unemployment while you're looking for a job. You find one, and you get an offer. But then you find out there's a high risk of you getting infected with COVID-19 because of your condition. You and your loved ones have even greater risk of death and serious illness because of the pre-existing conditions. So you turn it down. Right now, if you did that, you could be denied unemployment insurance because you're offered a job, you didn't take it. It's wrong. No one should have to choose between their livelihoods and their own health or the health of their loved ones in the middle of a deadly pandemic. Because of the executive order I'm about to sign, I expect the Department of Labor to guarantee the right to refuse employment that will jeopardize your health, and if you do so, you'll still be able to qualify for the insurance. That's a judgment the Labor Department will make. Look, there are just two consequential ways that the action I'm taking today will help people in need. Another way to help approximately 2 million veterans maintain their financial footing by pausing federal collections on overpayments and debts. Another makes sure that federal contractors who are receiving taxpayers' dollars provide their workers with the pay and benefits they deserve. These are places where federal tax dollars are administered, are being made available to build things from ships to staircases. And the federal government lets the contract, and we're going to make sure that they buy American and are made in America. And here's another. Right now, there are up to 8 million people that are eligible for direct payments from the CARES Act and a relief bill passed in December. They're entitled to those payments, but there's not an easy way for those folks to access them. So we're making it a priority today to fix that problem and get them relief they're entitled to. Look, I'm going to close and summarize this way. A lot of America is hurting. The virus is surging. We're 400,000 dead, expected to reach well over 600,000. Families are going hungry. People are at risk of being evicted. Job losses are mounting again. We need to act. No matter how you look at it, we need to act. If we act now, our economy will be stronger in both the short and long run. That's what economists left, right, and center are telling us. Both liberal and conservative will be better and stronger across the board. If we act now, we'll be better able to compete with the world. If we act now, we'll be better able to meet our moral obligations to one another as Americans. I don't believe the people of this country just want to stand by and watch their friends, their neighbors, coworkers, fellow Americans go hungry, lose their homes, or lose their sense of dignity and hope and respect. I don't believe that, especially in the middle of a pandemic that's so weakened and wreaked so much havoc and caused so much pain on America. That's not who we are. The bottom line is this: we're in a national emergency. We need to act like we're in a national emergency. So we've got to move with everything we've got, and we've got to do it together. I don't believe Democrats or Republicans are going hungry and losing jobs. I believe Americans are going hungry and losing their jobs. And we have the tools to fix it. We have the tools to get through this. We have the tools to get this virus under control and our economy back on track. And we have the tools to help people. So let's use the tools, all of them. Use them now. So I'm going to sign this executive order, but let me conclude again by saying, folks, this is one of the cases where business, labor, Wall Street, Main Street, liberal, conservative economists know we have to act now, not only to help people who are in need now, but to allow us to be in a competitive position worldwide and be the leader of the world economy in the next year and 2 and 3 and going forward. So thank you. I'm going to sign this executive order.
I have absolutely no idea what that was. Rambling Joe Biden, rambling again. More executive orders. Not really clear what executive order he's signing right now. I think that's Kamala Harris behind him as well. Is she dressed in all black? Looks kind of ominous. Welcome back to the show. We will bring you the comments from the president whenever the president has comments, whether they are or whatever he's used to saying or not. I've got myself coming back in my ear now to the production team. Can we kill that? Thank you very much. So that was President Biden. We'll bring you the details of that executive order as we get them. Not entirely sure what he's signing today, but we do know he has been on an executive order binge in the last couple of days. That follows, of course, the Democrats over the course of the last 5 years, criticizing President Trump for all the executive orders he signed. In the first day, the Biden regime signed executive orders letting men into women's bathrooms. They also, I used that occasion of Joe Biden taking over from me to put up a new story up on the nationalpulse.com right now, which you can read, which lots of people do when they first come out, because what they do is they subscribe to our in-browser notifications, and then they get notifications of the stories immediately. And the story that a lot of people seem to have glossed over from this plethora of executive orders over the last 24 hours is specifically one that involves the U.S. power grid. Now, President Trump had issued an executive order that sought to keep foreign countries and companies out of America's bulk power systems. Principally, that executive order was aimed at the Chinese Communist Party. We all know it's no surprise to anybody that the Chinese Communist Party loves to take as much power as possible, pun intended, but from Africa to Europe into the United States, they have been trying to amass as much control over core national security of both small nations and major countries for a very long time. So President Trump took the step to stop them. It was the executive order to stop China getting their talons into America's bulk power systems, and that was rescinded by the Biden regime as part of Joe Biden's executive order on protecting public health and the environment and restoring science to tackle the climate crisis. We've got it up on the screen now. There's a brand new story up on the nationalpulse.com right now. I urge you all to make sure that as many people as possible see this, because it's one of those things that's getting glossed over, not getting talked about by the major corporate establishment news networks, not even getting talked about enough, quite frankly, by the conservatives up on Capitol Hill, or indeed the conservative press. Specifically, President Trump's executive order talked about foreign adversaries increasingly creating and exploiting vulnerabilities in the United States bulk power system, which provides the electricity that supports national defense, vital emergency services, critical infrastructure, economy, and way of life. The bulk power system is a target of those seeking to commit malicious acts against the United States and its people, including malicious cyber activities, etc., etc. Now we know that Biden has just rescinded that executive order, again opening up the possibilities for the Chinese Communist Party to exploit the bulk power system. Disturbing, especially when you remember that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, was involved in several business relationships with the China Energy chairman Yi Jianming. And remember, it was always 10% for the big guy. Well, the big guy's there, and the big guy's signing the executive orders, which makes his 10% worth even more in the long run. We'll be following that story in close detail. Kane from Citizen Free Press will be joining us. It's Friday. We'll be back with more National Pulse in a second. Well, it's been a hectic old last couple of weeks, months, years. But I wanted to take a moment to thank everybody who has taken the National Pulse from being a small in-house blog of the American Principles Project to being an absolute behemoth standalone site of its own. I'll obviously thank everybody at the American Principles Project who helped us get it off the ground and who continue to help us with logistics, everybody here at Real America's Voice, but specifically you guys and gals out there, or as Biden in the White House new contact form would say, choose your pronouns for yourselves. Don't let me call you guys and gals, right? But, you know, a lot of people don't know we have a membership thing. It's very basic. It's just to support real news. We appreciate people supporting real news because we're not backed by any major corporate enterprise, Disney, Coca-Cola, or any of that kind of thing. Not even Mike Lindell. And we don't take piles of cash from billionaires. I don't believe in it. The reason I don't believe in it is because then you're beholden to them and their whims. Whatever they read in the newspaper one day, they call you up, they say, the site needs to be doing this and focus on this. No, the site needs to be doing what I decide as the editor it should be doing. And you guys out there empower me to do so. I like to think we're doing a good job. We probably end up on about 13 million views this month. We've still got about 10 days to go. And also, we've just passed the 2,000 mark in terms of paying members. And members pay anywhere from $5 if you just want to get into the Discord private chat with me. Every day I'm in there talking to people, and what a wonderful bunch of people it is who do their own investigations and research and chat and discourse all day long. That's wonderful. And some people go all the way up to the $500 life membership with us. And I'm very grateful for everybody who does. It means the world to us. I schedule calls with all of our lifetime members. I have a call immediately after this show with a member called Doug. But as I do every Friday, or at least I have done previously, we didn't get to do it last week, I want to rip through some of the names of the people who have recently joined, just as a way that I express my thanks to you. We don't read the whole names out. We don't want to dox people. We'll obviously get targeted for being conservatives nowadays. So let me just thank Mark, Jimmy, James, Ralph, Sylvia, Carol, Beth, Naoma, Joy, Mary, Ryan, Leslie, Brett, Diane, Colleen, Phyllis, Carl, Gary, Donna, Davin, and there's just a whole host of names here. I mean, it's just so many hundreds have joined in recent days. Rebecca, Becky, Sarah, Vonnie, George, Dale, Harold, Wayne, and Marie, Peter, Janice, Monique, Angela, Stacy, Dan, Philip, Joseph, Rory, Patricia, Kathleen, and more and more. I could keep going on. Let me just say a very, very big thank you. We've got a long road ahead of us. You know, we do real news, we do real investigations. We like to cover buried leads, things that the media buries in their stories. We pull them out, put them front and center, make sure that things like that are getting the requisite attention they deserve. One of the things, for instance, that really caught my eye this morning, in terms of if you want me to explain what a buried lead is you had this Republican who said, I think it was to Yahoo News, he said, hey, I'm not for giving $1,400 checks out. I'll only give out $1,400 checks to people who take the vaccine. Nah. How about that? You keep your 14, or rather our $1,400. There's just a whole host of stuff on the site like that. Buried leads plus real news investigations. And thank you for helping us do it. You know, we're going to need a new infrastructure, completely new conservative infrastructure. I just do not want to rely on the old Republican heritage CPAC guard anymore. I don't do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I'm not going to get into, you know, shouting matches with other people in the industry here in Washington, D.C., but I think you guys are smart enough to figure out for yourselves who these people are and what they really do it for. Somebody who doesn't do it for that reason, the profit motive, and does it for the cause, is Kane. Kane is the founder of CitizenFreePress.com, one of my favorite websites. Check it all day long. I'm grateful so much and so often for Kane linking back to the National Pulse. He has an amazing audience, massive comment section, everything, right? The way it used to be. I want to bring Kane into the conversation here. Kane, it's been a bumper month for you guys as well. I know you even had some technical difficulties this month as a result of your growth as a site. And I just want to say thank you to you, actually, Kane, for what you do for the conservative movement, because I think without your site, so many people, me included, would struggle to keep up with the news cycle every day, especially because we're not going to be relying on people like Matt Drudge. So, Kane, welcome back to the show, and thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And, there goes my phone right live on the air. So you're welcome and happy Friday. And yeah, it's been a heck of a month, a heck of a week. So much emotion happening with the base. You mentioned your traffic. I just want to say that's phenomenal. 13 million. How many months has National Pulse existed?
We'll be 12 this month.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're above 10 million page views a month in less than a year. Kudos to you and the other new conservative media people. You mentioned our server shut down briefly. Yeah, I'll talk about traffic for a few seconds. Even with essentially the site down for 2 days, we're probably going to cross 100 million page views this month. And you were right about the comments on Citizen Free Press. It's getting insane. It's now more than, well, yesterday was more than 10,000 comments on the site. So I'm not only I'm sort of moderating comments when people call out for help and posting stories. So it's making for a long slog.
It's amazing, and the reason I talk about this isn't kind of to toot your horn or toot my own horn or anything like that. I want the audience to be part of this every single day, because this shouldn't be about how the old conservative news sites did it, which is kind of building these silos, these cash cow silos for themselves, and then as soon as things got tough, times got tough. I mean, you look at some of the reporting that came out last week of what was being said about President Trump in the Breitbart company Slack channel, and you just look at that and you go, wow, talk about abandoning the guy immediately. And I don't intend to ever get that way or become like that. We stick to our principles. Kane, we've got to take a quick break here. Let me bring you back in the next segment, because there's plenty of news to talk about as well. But I just wanted to update our viewers, and I do that every Friday. We like to do it every Friday, update them on the progress we're making, because I know you guys, you turn on this channel, you're investing in us. So I think we need to read you in and dial you into the conversation here as well. Kane, stick around. CitizenFreePress.com. New news up at thenationalpulse.com right now. Biden rescinds Trump order banning Chinese communist involvement in U.S. power grid. We'll be back with more in just a second. All right, welcome back to the National Pulse. One of our members, I have my members live chat up throughout the show every time I'm on the show, so I can get real-time feedback from our Discord chat. And somebody said, and this is for the production team, said should consider popping the QR code up again. That's how I joined. So let's put the National Pulse support page back up again. Mr. Producer, and I think there's a QR code on that page, and people, you can actually scan. If you get your phone out, if you're setting up close enough to your TV, you can actually get your phone out and scan that QR code, and it will take you directly to our page. So you don't really need to type in any URLs or anything like that. I am super into those sorts of things now. I actually even carry around one of those. I had one of those Parler cards where you can actually just tap it on somebody's phone and it sends you straight. It used to send you straight to your Parler page. It's very, very useful and helps save the environment, not using paper business cards anymore. I want to bring Kane back into the conversation now here. Kane, lots of news, I think, is the is the topic of the day. And I think what we're going to start doing, by the way, at the Pulse, we're going to pop this up very shortly, the first version of this. We are going to do a daily digest of what the Biden regime is doing every single day. Just a quick 300, 500 words max to let people know what happened on that day in particular. Because I think they're going to just flood the zone with so much that it's going to be hard for people to consume. I mean, this story that we've got up now, Kane, about the bulk power systems, has been totally ignored and passed over by most people. So my question to you, what's standing out to you at the moment? What is Citizen Free Press focused on? Why should people be visiting?
Well, before we get to that, you mentioned your Parler card. I hadn't heard of that. So that means for your birthday, I'm getting you a Gab phone. Sure, you saw that this week. They've got a brand new phone that's Android, but stripped of all Google bots and Google malware. And so what am I watching? I'm just trying to recover from 4 hours of sleep every night, basically, for the past 10 days, it feels like. But here's one that stands out. We had a real estate agent who was charged in the Capitol events, right? Jenna Ryan was her name.
Right.
She's the one who publicly asked President Trump for a pardon about a week ago. Came out today that PayPal has shut down her fundraising for her legal defense. So there's another example. Why doesn't she have a right? She didn't, fine. If they want to sort of go after her for breaking the law, she has a full right to her defense. And why can't she fundraise for that defense? And it's just ridiculous. Something else I found interesting last night, we had a county in Kentucky censure Mitch McConnell.
I didn't even hear about that. What are the details of that?
Yeah, it's sort of like the Wyoming move. After Liz Cheney, it was one of the biggest counties in Wyoming, had a unanimous vote, and they censored her. Same thing in Kentucky. I don't remember the name of the county. It might have been Noble County, but it was a unanimous vote censoring him. And it's more symbolic than anything else, but it points out that even Kentucky residents are fed up with Mitch, and this is not going to go away quickly.
Amazing. Nelson County, I'm just reading it on your site now. Nelson County in Kentucky. Amazing. See, this is why, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be following Citizen Free Press. Kane, I also wanted to get your thoughts on the new press secretary, on Jen Psaki, because I've noticed a couple of headlines, a couple of salty headlines over at Citizen Free Press about her performance and what excuses she's been giving for Joe Biden not wearing a mask on federal property when he's the one, in support of the national mask mandate. She seems like a particular kind of terrible, Kane.
I always laugh when I'm surprised. That was really good. I didn't know much about Psaki until the last 4 years and her ranting and raving on CNN. She's been a maniacal enemy of President Trump and has never hidden her bias. And it's just shocking to see her back in the role, back in the White House press room. Yes, she took some heat for her excuse. She said that Biden was just celebrating. That's why he, hours after he issued the mask mandate for federal property, he was celebrating at the Lincoln Memorial on federal property. And she said it was okay because it was a celebration. And yeah, you're right about my salty headlines. They're directly proportional to my anger. So there you go.
Well, and that I think we're seeing so much of that now on both sides. You saw this New York Times editor whose contract was just cancelled because, she tweeted something about how, her soul was uplifted by seeing Biden made president or whatever. I mean, these people now truly believe, as if we didn't know it before, right? But they'll truly believe that the masks can all come off and they can just be Democrats and the New York Times can just be an outwardly Democratic Party propaganda machine. And we all know that they are, but at least they kind of pretend they're not and at least give it. But now you're seeing all these reporters, and we can talk loads about these reporters, by the way, because I know so many of them. If you want names dropped about who does what in this city, I have been at a lot of parties, and I have seen a lot of them on the floor. There's not many people that can outdrink me anyway. But these people, they just think that this is it now, right? They're unchained, they're off the leash. credit to the New York Times, I guess, Kane, for withdrawing her contract as a result of her very, very inappropriate tweets. But at the same time, it's not like she hasn't been writing their copy for the last couple of years. What, they think we're just going to forget that? They employed her in the first place. They knew what she was doing.
Yeah, it's a joke. You know, the phrase journalism is dead floats around Twitter, but it couldn't be more true. It's over. The mask is off. Like you said, we've known it. 95% of the media give to Democrats, support Democrats. That's been the case since the 70s. We've known it, but it's never been so obvious as the last 4 years. Now it cannot be denied by anyone. Even in polls that come out on media bias now, you even see that majority of Democrats agree that there is a liberal bias. So it's disgusting, and I look forward to seeing what happens to the audience of Stephen Colbert. It's not just the media types. Now that everyone can relax, right? Oh, now that a good guy is back in the White House, we have love, peace, understanding. Now that, you know, the Democrats are all going to relax. They aren't going to consume media 18 hours a day like they used to. So I want to see Stephen Colbert take the giant collapse. There you go. I'm not a fan.
The numbers, the record low numbers that you had on the site, I think you linked to the Axios story, is absolutely incredible. Trusted media hitting a new low just when you thought it couldn't get worse for America's media. We'll be back. We'll talk about more of that with Kane, the founder and publisher of CitizenFreePress.com. Stick around. So you've got to take this with a pinch of salt, in that Edelman's numbers here are probably a little bit in excess of what they really are, tend to be a little bit more sympathetic to the media. But the Axios story on trust in the media is still worthy of comment and worthy of analysis. They say by the numbers, for the first time ever, fewer than half of all Americans have trust in traditional media, according to data from Edelman's annual Trust Barometer, shared exclusively with Axios. Trust in social media has hit an all-time low of 27%. 56% of Americans agree with the statement journalists and reporters are purposely trying to mislead people by saying things they know are false or gross exaggerations. 58% think that most news organizations are more concerned with supporting an ideology or political position than informing the public. And Edelman re-polled Americans after the elections. The figures had deteriorated even further. 57% of Democrats trust the media. And only 18% of Republicans do. Want to get the thoughts of a new media mogul, Kane from Citizen Free Press. Kane, you get an extraordinary amount of traffic to the site. You're one of those people, by the way, that when, I don't even remember which Democrat talking head was on the television, they said, hey, some of these sites get even more traffic than CNN does. That can't be allowed to exist. But you're one of those guys. You're who he was talking about. So what do you think about that? And what do you think how it portends for the whole banning and taking us off all the platforms and destroying the conservative news network infrastructure?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's wreck it all. You know, I don't want to pat, and look, none of this is about me. It's about my readers. This is about CFP Nation. So let's hear, I want to put out there what Citizen Free Press Nation accomplished. We had more page views, and this is SimilarWeb numbers, which are public for December. We had more page views than the Los Angeles Times in December. This is a one-person site. LA Times is, who knows how many writers, a couple hundred. They had 75.4 million. We had 75.9. So yeah, we are replacing them. And now getting to the conservative infrastructure, we need it. Our sites are getting banned. They're getting purged. They're getting kicked off Amazon cloud services. They're being kicked off individual web hosts. We've talked about it in the past on the air. We need an ad network for digital sites that is focused on conservative websites and conservative companies. We need server host companies that are explicitly for free speech and willing to take on conservative clients. We have to create our own infrastructure. I want to say something here. I want to interject really quick just about your performance this week, dude. I marveled at it. You were the best. Your shows from inside the militarized zone, you at that desk with that window that you could look out and see. that was the best that was the best political television this week anywhere. I watch more than anyone. That's not a good thing. But there was nobody better, and you were doing it off script, off cuff. I hate compliments, so I know you hate this, but you were really, really good. No. And I think I just want yeah. You know, and to your staff too. I think you're going to be the next Tucker Carlson. I don't know if it's going to take a year. I don't know if it's going to take 3 years.
If Tucker were here, he'd say, I don't wish that on anybody.
Well, he's got a $25 million contract that he wishes upon no one else either.
Well, I appreciate it. Kane, it's let's do some betting here live on air. I don't know if that's even allowed. What do you bet? What do you fancy? 19 hours and 26 minutes is when I'm supposed to be lifted from my latest Twitter suspension, right? And I understand that there's an audience out there who say, well, why would you even help them out in the first place? You're right. I mean, look, I have 50,000 followers on there. I still want to reach them. At the same time, hey, I'm having a great time on Gab. And by the way, I'm waiting for the last 9,000 of you to start following me on Gab, because once I hit the 100,000 mark on Gab, as I've pledged before, as I did when I joined Parler for the first time, I will donate $1,000 in cash to the Tunnels to Towers charity, just one of the most fantastic charities in the country. So, of my own money. So, Kane, 19 hours, 25 minutes until they're supposed to let me back on Twitter. But of course, last time, they just stuck another ban on top of my last ban and then another on top of that. So what's the over-under here? What do you reckon? Do you think they just slap another 12 hours, 24 hours, maybe another week on top of this?
Depends if Dorsey's watching this show right now. You know he's got people monitoring you, dude. I guarantee it. You know, it's a great question. I hope you come back. And I want to reiterate for 15 seconds. Look, people, all of our readers, both National Pulse and Citizen Free Press, we understand that you hate Twitter. We pretty much hate it as well. But we're journalists. Give us a break. We need it to get our voice out there. So I hope, yes, that Twitter allows you back. I'm going to say, I'm feeling good on a Friday. 62% chance that Twitter ends your suspension in 19 hours and 26 minutes.
Kane, any closing thoughts for us here?
Yeah, I got tons of closing thoughts. You know,
1 minute. All yours.
1 minute worth of closing thoughts, in fact. Exactly 1 minute. Here's a couple of stories that are up on the site. I want people to know, they can see the list, right? A seventh grader designed the site, an anonymous seventh grader. It's built that way so you can get all the news. It's all at the top, very quick. Open your phones. You'll see all the new headlines. And here are some of them. We had 1,700 Chinese police sent to Hong Kong. They're having their first lockdown of the COVID era. Hong Kong never had a lockdown. Trump offering his hotels to the DC National Guard. That's another fantastic thing that hasn't been mentioned.
Yep.
Amazon sending a story on Amazon sending a letter to the Biden administration, letting them know that they're here to cooperate and help get 100 million vaccines to the American people. They sent no such letter to the Trump administration.
Right.
So I can feel I'm coming up to the end.
Yep.
A lot of people wanted to talk about Andrew Breitbart this week, so I want you to talk about Andrew Breitbart if you don't mind, and have a great weekend.
Well, thank you, Kane. We'll focus on that in the next week for sure. I just wanted to end the show. A lot of people noticed that I was out yesterday. Got some very bad news yesterday about a good friend of mine. Hannah Ford. Hannah was a political activist down in Alabama, sadly passed away at the weekend. A very close friend of mine, had worked in all sorts of different parts of politics down there, locally, nationally as well, the Roy Moore campaign, and was just an amazing person, taught me so much, not least patience with people. She was very patient with me. I'll miss her terribly, and that's why I was out yesterday. My prayers, thoughts with her family. She recently got engaged. She got engaged the day before I did, and we actually colluded on that whole story. We were just talking about it last week, so very sad. Sorry to leave you with that, but I thought I'd be upfront and honest with why I wasn't here yesterday. Stick around, stay tuned. More Real America's Voice and more War Room later on today. Cheers.